page, along with email, so you guys know exactly where I'm going to be during the week in case you guys want to have in-person meetings with me. I'd be more than happy to spend some time with you guys. But I'm really excited and about being back in the office and really celebrating our culture and really getting to the DNA of what you guys are all about. And you guys are great. For my short time being here, I've never been part of an office that's been so collaborative. People willing to share, tips, tricks, and scripts, and just a wealth of knowledge to help one another grow. And I feel like this is a really important thing for our office, and as a company to have a speaker who's very influential on creating culture. And he's a really close friend of mine, and I asked him to come in because every time I talk to him, he just walks around with pride about his team and the kind of culture they have in their company. And he's actually in the process of writing a book, and he's just a wonderful guy. I call him my brother from another mother, and I'm so excited what he's going to share with us today as a group. So without further ado, I want to share my good friend of mine named Dustin Rhodes. And Dustin, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
All right, man. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Well, man, some great, looks like anniversaries there. Happy birthday to everybody that was mentioned on the call here. Yeah, I'm honored. Me and Esau, I think, got together. We've known each other for what? Probably 3 years at least. So, equally, I take my friendship with Esau and I literally try to pick his brain on everything that he knows, because I think collaboration of the brain is, especially in business, is so big. We got this big basic eco structure, and every business really has the same lineals, right? I run and have ran remodeling companies for a very long time. And, culture is one of those things that really aren't thought about in the remodeling industry. It's one of those things that it's really set off to the side. And, people don't realize that it's one of the biggest parts of, in my business, the business itself, right? The health of the business. So I'm going to play a little quick short something. We're going to get into this, but I've gone about 5 different turnarounds where I've taken businesses that have been on the downfall or the up and up, and really have grown them double digits, 30, 40, sometimes over almost 200% over the course of a few years, right? And compared to some of the numbers that you guys work with, because I love Esau's thing, closing billions, right? We're not, we're just remodeling. So we're about the $40 million mark through my current business here. I've turned current businesses from like 8 million to 56 million, and then literally done this same type of thing in like 4 different locations. So when I talked to Esau the other day, he asked me if I would share. So I'm just going to real quick just share some of the footprint of really when I go into a business, looking at what the culture is like, how to grow it, and then how to change. So thanks for having me today. Number one, guys, I know your time is valuable, obviously, everybody on this call. So I'm going to try to be as quick and to the point as possible. So here we go. So when you look at culture, right? Number one, why is it important? I'm sure a lot of you guys have been in organizations. Some people I saw have been part of your organization for 20, 27 years to that nature. It's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome to see somebody in that position for that long, which is phenomenal, right? So why is culture important? Why is it a big deal? One of the things I talk about culture is conditioned environment. I think in our businesses and our lives, right, we all have different elements we walk into. And I think most of the part of the culture environment, or condition environment, excuse me, is really understanding what your ecosystem's like in your business, right? Is it a business of health? What is it in here that you're currently looking at? So one of the little exercises I have that I tell most people to do when I walk into your business is, what do you feel the current condition in your environment is now? Like, you take your culture, if you're to define what's the current condition and environment, right? If you take a little notepad and you write a few things down that you feel like is important to your conditioned environment, what you feel like your current conditioned environment is now, right? So if you define that real quick, just write a few things down. Could be, like ESUAL says, everybody seems to be helping, sharing scripts, things to that nature that you really define as your success. They're super important. Next, if you defined if you would build your ideal environment for success in the workplace, what does that look like, right? Because I think a lot of you guys are all independent contractors, right? So obviously you picked Berkshire Hathaway for a reason. So what is that reason? And if you look at you wrote down your perfect scenario of what you needed to make you thrive in your own business, what does that look like? Take a second, write that down as well, because we got a little exercise we're going to do at the end of it. So again, what's your current condition environment? And then again, if you built your perfect environment for success in the workplace, what would that look like? Okay, make sure you write those down. And I love this. Now, I'm sure you're going to write down everything you do here, right? So I'm sure you guys we all feel like we're perfect in our scenarios, what we do. But if you make a list of the perfect realtor qualities in the business, what does that look like, right? If you took a realtor and you were like playing a video game, you're going to pick all the right attributes for that. What exactly would those attributes be? So I'll give you guys a second, take it and write it down. I'll let you think while I'm going through the next slide here, okay? All right, culture motivates or eliminates, right? If you look at the brain, and the reason I bring this up is a lot of times ecosystems or environments, aka culture, can be broken because we're human beings, right? We have lives. We are fathers. We are basically brothers. We are mothers. We are basically friends. We are parents. We've got all these different responsibilities as human beings. And unfortunately, when things are new, we sometimes run away or we fear to fight change, right? Funny state is 811 receptors of the brain are based off fear, right? If you think about that, 3 are based off gain. So if you think about automatically, our brains are designed to basically survive.
He spent $3,000 on alcohol.
I didn't see the gun. I just saw the boots.
Oh.
So the other part of it is basically, again,
yeah,
80% of our learned experiences from a child are negative, right? So again, it kind of simulates basically that area in our brain where, again, we want to go towards that negative. And the reason why I say that is when we talk about other people, it's too easy to get sucked into that, right? Because again, our frontal lobe, when we get into a situation, I'm sure you guys as realtors go into houses and you've been in certain situations or dealt with certain people, you can almost predict what that future is, right? And one of the things that I've noticed when you walk into most environments, when you're thinking about try to basically analyze your culture is, basically we have fear of change, fear of sharing information. What if I'm judged, right? What if the stuff I come out to, what if my co-partners or basically the other agents in here or in my area, design consultants, what if they laugh at what I have to say? What if they don't like it? What if we argue about opinion, right? So I always say is fear is the anxiety, is the BFF of anxiety, right? And really, what is anxiety, right? Because a lot of us don't know. A lot of us, could say we have anxiety. Some people take medication for it. But really what it is your prefrontal cortex, the front end of your brain basically doesn't have enough information to predict the outcome. So when things are brand new, sometimes, again, we go and have an anxiety because we really don't know how to predict that outcome. Our brain hasn't lived there. It does not recognize enough information to make that basically outcome. And we're dealing with tons of new people. I think I saw on this, there were 40-something people on the call, right? There's tons of people who have dealt with things that we haven't dealt with right in your circle. So again, people generally tend to dislike change, right? We all have our opinions on certain topics. So it's making sure, again, that, what do we do with those opinions, right? In my opinion, one of the things that you come in when you're trying to analyze to build the foundation for your team is culture is about cleaners. Now, how do you kill weeds, right? I'm sure you guys all know somebody you guys deal with. When you talk to them, they run you down, right? So again, if you realize why people succeed or fail, they've done a statistic out there. They said people fail for 3 reasons, right? When you look at a new, in my area, it's a representative. They fail for 3 reasons, right? It's a capability issue. It means they probably are not capable of doing the job at the very beginning, right? So when you take somebody to do this, maybe they don't have the skill set. They don't have the people skills. They don't have basically the drive to walk into there, right? Training issues means, again, maybe that the training that they've received or the training that they've paid for, the training they've attended might be not good enough, that they're not able to exceed the expectations of themselves, their company, and of their customers too, right? And the next thing is a focus issue. Again, this comes from being a human, right? Could be basically outside influences, could be other things that walk into the issue, could be basically somebody's graduating, could be a marriage, could be lots of things out there that are creating focus issues. Might be a financial issue, right? I know you guys had talked about before, just a minute ago, I heard pretty interesting statistics on, basically the default rates of loans, right? And being very low. Nice, very nice stuff to hear through there. So again, what I think it realizes, from a team standpoint, we're all in the same storm, just in different boats. So if you look at that, I get you on this call. I'm not a realtor, but I know that sales is a lot of times have very similar parallels. But there's a lot of agents right now probably going through things that other agents have already gone through, right? And we all look at everything from our boat, which is our selfish perspective on our view. It's kind of our own paradigm of the area that we look at. And we think about your paradigm, right, which is the way that you view the world. Sometimes, I'm sure you would agree that sometimes our paradigms aren't always what they seem, right? We think things, we fear things, we have anxiety about certain things that we know that somebody has probably dealt with and again, basically succeeded in. That's why, again, sometimes we got to step outside of our boat and ask someone else, what's going on and how we help it, right? In my business, we have three quadrants. We talk about our top performers. We have this segment in our business. We call it Cleaner Corner, right? Because, we all want to be closers. Means we want to close the big deals and make sure we're all making money. And there's also a cooler. A cooler is what we call our lower end performers, right? It kind of, if you remember the term water cooler, right? So water cooler are people that like to sit around and they like to find things that are wrong with other people, a lot of times to make themselves feel elevated, right? It's also somebody that's not willing to put in the time it takes to basically be a closer and then eventually a cleaner, right? I'm sure you guys are comfortable and have heard of basically the 4 levels of competency, right? So unconscious incompetent means you don't know what you don't know. Conscious incompetence means you know what you don't know, right? Conscious competence means it's grasping on, I understand what I know, but I still have to think about it. And that unconscious competence means I do it without even having to try, it just is automatic. Kind of like your professional sports, right? If you ever read the book Relentless, this is where I took this idea from, right? Tim Grover. We took it and elevated it into our business to kind of allow me to grade our representatives on segments, right? And what I want to do is I want to have a room full of cleaners, right? Obviously, which would be, but I got to realize that people are growing in their position, right? We got some people probably have been agents for a year, sometimes 2 years, sometimes within 5 years. And I'm sure there's different levels of competency that walk into that, right? So we look at it, again, you got to ask yourself when you look into it, right? A cooler is somebody that's either just starting or basically is kind of stuck in a pattern where they're not really able to grow, right? A closer is somebody in that pattern that is basically doing a good job. They're like stable, which means that their results are pretty predictable every month, every quarter, however your grading scale is. And a cleaner are the people that literally are always meeting, if not exceeding expectations on a day-to-day basis. And they really are building the environment for the closers and then hopefully the coolers to rise up to that next level. So again, it's leaders within inside that organization. A great culture, when you start to build it, starts managing itself, right? And there's a lot of discipline with a culture that manages itself because, from a management standpoint, and from what I've noticed from managing not only local offices, but around the country, is the best cultures are ones that don't have to be policed, right? We definitely don't want firefighting, but again, we want to make sure that the culture that we live within is one that we believe in, right? A branch manager, if Esau, love him to death, is basically trying to shove the culture down your throat, that becomes his culture, not yours, right? If you buy into the culture and you really love it and you feel like it's part of it and you've helped develop it, then again, everybody takes ownership for the culture. And it's super important if the culture that's managing itself walks through. Let's talk a little about what a healthy culture looks like, right? You know, a healthy culture influences growth, which means we want to make sure that we're putting the people in the right scenario, in the right condition and environment to basically motivate growth, right? You know, realize we're coming up on February 14th. I know that's Valentine's Day, but it's also another very important day. You realize by February 14th, 92% of people who had put out a New Year's resolution by February 14th will forget it existed, which means that's a 92% failure rate on basically able to exceed, if not meet those expectations you set for yourself on January 1st. So really what you got to ask yourself is, how am I trending towards my goals I set out at the beginning of the year? Am I already failing? Am I basically lackluster? Have I forgotten about it because life got kicked into there, right? So again, you got to make sure that you have people that can help you with that growth, right? Culture makes people love what they do. If you don't come to work every day pumped up and excited, and you have to have somebody to push you to motivate, you might be in the wrong career, right? So again, we want to make sure that we build that environment within our team that makes people love coming to work, right? If you don't look forward to the calls, you don't look forward to the growth seminars, you don't look forward to basically, you know, conversating with basically your fellow colleagues, again, there might be something that's setting off with you inside the culture. Culture might not be a fit, maybe it is. Next, you know, culture feels like a family. You know, if you don't feel like your teammates are part of the family and they'll go to bat for you, you know, ask yourself why. Maybe, you know, 40 people, there's a lot of people, 40 plus people, however many on this call, you know, there's a lot of people inside there, right? And in that 40 people, you know, a lot of agents through there, some personalities might clash. Some might basically get along great. You just got to find out really within your ecosystem, who are the people that are going to help you basically succeed, right? Because that really is what's going to create that whole environment for success. And really, because you got to define what success looks like. Iron sharpens iron. You know, I always tell my team, you know, never take advice from somebody that you wouldn't be willing to trade place with, right? If you're basically never going to take advice from somebody you wouldn't really, if you're going to take advice from somebody that you're not willing to trade places with, well, think about why that is, right? And it doesn't mean that they're just the #1 top producer in the entire business. It might be they're really good at one segment of the business. Maybe it's the social media side, right? Maybe it's the closing deal side. Maybe it's, you know, the compliance side, whatever it might be. If you find somebody that you're willing to trade places with in that section of your business and you're able to utilize them, well, that growth is like iron sharpening iron, because where they're great in one segment, maybe you're great in a different segment. So you guys can keep spinning those ideas to help, again, making that iron sharpen iron. Again, that's what I feel like mine and Esau's relationship is I feel like I'm one of the strongest in my industry. You know, Esau feels one of the strongest in your guys' industry. And when you get together with individuals like yourself, you got to think about it. Who would you? Take a second, think about that. If you could pick one person's brain or a couple people's brain in there based on what they're great at, and then you would want to gain that in your personal business, and they would, again, want to grab something that you're great at, again, that's an iron sharpen iron type moment. So you got to realize and grab a hold of it, and don't let anxiety kick in, as we talked about before, because we don't predict and we don't know how they would take me coming and ask it. He or she who does not ask will not receive. I repeat that again. He or she who does not ask will not receive. You know, again, culture creates Big Mo, right? I don't know if you guys have any Darren Hardy fans. I like Darren Hardy. I listened to him about the time I was 25, all the success magazines throughout the entire creature. I figured as a young guy, it was like my MBA in basically, basically audio stereo on the car, right? He pretty much lived in the car with me. So again, Big Mo stands for momentum, right? And when you get in momentum, that's one of those things that they call it in fuego, right? You know, you get athletes, you get sports stars, you get, basically people just they're playing out of body. I'm sure sometimes you guys have had a month or know people that have a month where you feel like everything you do turns into money, turns into success, turns into sales, right? So when you grab a hold of that, what you got to figure out is your culture, right? If you remember this, if you had a book on teaching you how to become in fuego or momentum, literally realize within your 40 people, you have that book, right? So always ask yourself when you get into that momentum side, because what you want to do is you want to share that with somebody. Because momentum works is if, let's say I'm out there and I'm converting at a very high rate, right? And I'm not sure what exact metrics you guys use, but in our business, we always say if our 45% self could write a letter to our 27% self or 20% self, then what would that letter look like? What are things that I would start doing, stop doing, and continue doing? That's what we call a buoyancy plan. Because what happens is if someone else gives somebody advice, that becomes basically, that becomes suspect, right? If you give yourself advice and you write your own buoyancy plan, that now becomes the gospel. And if you can share ideas with other people about their buoyancy plan and you can share your buoyancy plan with them, hey, you never know that one thing you do might be the thing that pulls somebody out of financial struggle. That might pull somebody out of a month or basically a quarter that they haven't been able to, close themselves out of wet paper sack, I call it, right? We got to, again, figure out how we make that momentum work. One of the things that I've been privileged to do, I got to go to, Disney, and I went on I did their basically be our guest. And I did the Disney customer service speak. And what the biggest thing on there I learned is courtesy, right? Courtesy, when you sit in there, is both to inside and outside customers, right? So the way you treat people is generally how you get treated back in return, right? Give to get. So when you think about courtesy, it might be with your, underwriters, might be with basically, your title company, might be with the solar company that just queried your deal that we just heard about, right? So again, that courtesy, and then not to mention to them, but also our customers, right? Are we giving the experience that we're experiencing, right? Are we the experience that we would expect to experience if you were my realtor? Am I giving that kind of experience? And am I getting that back in return from the people that I'm communicating with? Showtime, this is everything. This is your car when you pull up to the house. This is the cleanliness. It's the way you dress. It's having if you wear a badge, right? It's either a lanyard or a name badge on your right side so they remember your name, right? It's the way that basically you're performing yourself. It's your Instagram page. It's all those things that we walk into that we expect ourselves to be perfect at that we want to realize. Second you step out of a car, second you talk to somebody on the phone, it's showtime. There's no time to be off, especially when you're talking about some of the $1 million basic price tags, multi-million-dollar price tags you're dealing with. The room and margin for error is so small, right? Next thing that builds culture is no surprises, right? I always joke surprises are left for birthday parties. They shouldn't be for business. So again, if your clients or basically your internal partners, are basically getting surprised because we're not putting the effort or not as detailed, or basically we're springing things on with them in the last second. Again, those are things that can break culture because nobody likes surprises. And then the last part is efficiency, which means how do I make myself the most efficient with what I'm doing so I'm not spinning my wheels? Some of us I know might have ADD or ADHD, right? So we look at that and sometimes we have a hard time to get focused in on multiple tasks, right? We might get hyper-focused and be really good at one part of our business or really good at one segment of our business, and we might lack or could use room for improvement in others. So again, using your culture to help you get better at these little segments in life are always basically room for growth. So again, once you've figured out what your culture is, how do you protect it? Because protecting your culture to me is probably one of the most basically, one of the hardest things to do, because it only takes, again, for one individual, say you're having a communication with somebody and you guys are talking about something going on in the market or that, basically that foreclosure thing that you guys were talking about a minute ago, that can be consumed as negative, right? If I grab a hold of that and I own that as my reality and I have fear towards that, well, realize that if somebody speaks to you that way or shares a negative information with you or something that's going on that's negative, remember 3 seconds negativity affects the central nervous system for 21 hours. So that means pretty much what they did to you by allowing you or sharing something negative, that's going to affect your whole day. That can take your counterpart or your productivity for that whole day. Anyone here ever been driving down the road and somebody cut them off or shot them the finger or yelled at you when you weren't expecting it? It's hard to let that go for a short period of time. And you might let it go for the second and smile, but you might hold on to that for an entire day. It takes you, they said the nervous system takes 21 hours to release that negativity before basically you're able to move on from it. So think about that. Don't let anyone ruin your day, right? So no one has permission to run your day unless you allow them to. So in your culture, remember, we have to protect that. So again, don't ever give anyone permission. If somebody's coming at you with something negative, our job is to redirect that, right? Because strength lies in differences, not similarities, right? Strength lies in differences, not similarities. So you don't have to agree to disagree, right? So again, basically, what we choose to let upset or anger us becomes our master. Think about that. What we choose to let upset or anger us becomes our master. So if we let an individual get to us and anger us or become upset with what they're doing to us, now that just became our master. It means basically that we're giving in, we're submitting, we're tapping out and realizing that they affected our entire day. And my goal is that's not my master. All right. So again, what you got to figure out, what's the truth in the statement before you react, right? I always say one of the biggest things you can do is the power of pause, right? 4 seconds, right? If you give yourself 4 seconds, what happens? It gives your brain time to catch up with your mouth, right? 2 wrongs don't make it right. If you pause 4 seconds, figure out any situation like that, sometimes we might be reading something wrong. Somebody might say something and we might have, based on our experiences in the past, might read wrong what they're trying to say, and we might snap at that. And if we snap at that again, that's not building culture, that's breaking culture. So we got to figure out maybe what they're saying isn't what you're perceiving. So pausing 4 seconds, acknowledging, which means thanking them for sharing it, confirming you actually know what they're saying and asking you to answer or communicate with, and then respond the best way you know, that's not going to break culture, that's going to move you towards your goal and not away from it. We have something called the 3-foot rule. And I know I'm running out of time here, but we got something called the 3-foot rule. 3-foot rule is, in our culture, we give everybody the option and we talk about it coming in. 3-foot rule is something that you're responsible in your business, in basically yourself, and inside of the culture, to basically follow the 3-foot rule. The 3-foot rule means if you're in an area and one of your co-partners or one of your team members are around you and they're outside the culture within your 3-foot rule, and they're doing something maybe to pose negativity or complain or doing something that's not part of your culture, it's your job not to insult them or embarrass them in front of your counterparts, is to pull them aside and say, hey, I get it. I know right now there's some things going on, but really we shouldn't be doing that. That's outside the culture. What's going on? And maybe you can find out there's something in their life going to help them get through it, not allowing them to give that 3 seconds negativity to multiple people in your team, which again is breaking culture, not helping it, right? So again, policing that 3-foot rule, that 3 foot around you, is basically as much as your problem protecting the culture, as much as it is management's. Now, if you step outside that 3 foot and the counterpart won't listen to you, or arrogance kicks in, because remember, arrogance is a weakness. Confidence with humility is a strength. Let me repeat that again. Arrogance is a weakness. Confidence with humility is a strength. So we got to make sure that 3-foot rule, when we're policing that, if arrogance kicks in and they tell you to pretty much go pound sand and you see them continue to keep going about it, that's when you grab management and you let management know, hey, this person is a culture killer right now, right? So again, we want to make sure, again, we don't allow anyone to step into our culture. So this is why, I always say choose your 5 carefully. I know a lot of you probably caught right onto that, right? You realize the 5 people in your life that you spend the most time with, that's who influences your life. That is whose trajectory is going to basically take you into it, right? If I want to be the 6th millionaire, I need to hang out with 5 and figure out what their conditioned environment is. So with their conditioned environment, I know I'm getting better. I'm not staying the same. If you got 5 complainers and you're hanging around them, well, guess what? You're going to be the 6th. If I got 5 people that already think they know everything, then guess what? I'm going to be the 6th person just like that. And it sucks to sit around hearing somebody brag about how great they are, but they won't share with you on how to get better. So then make sure when you're choosing your 5 people that you very carefully choose them, because again, really that dictates more than anything your success. Because if you can create synergy, like the quote from Dr. Stephen Covey here, right? If you create synergy within your business, and when you can synergize with a team, your basically results and your possibilities are endless, right? So you look at this, be open to new ideas and different approaches, right? So again, be open to new ideas and different approaches. If you know everything, well, you're dead. You mean you're done learning. You're done learning. Congratulations. You're plateauing to the end with technology, basic resources, all the things there is to learn about your industry and other industries and tech and even environment, learning about your culture and how to grow. You know, what dedication do you have to yourself to make sure that you're bringing new ideas or being open to them and listening to different approaches? If you hear something immediately, you interrupt it and you tell what you do, it means you're not really valuing that other person's opinion, right? It means that's breaking culture. Even though you think you've got your best interest in mind, if you ever been interrupted, you're in basically right in mid-sentence and somebody interrupts you and then they start talking over you. And then they ask you, what were you trying to say? And you forgot about it, realize it's a one-sided conversation, right? So what you don't want to have is have the curse of knowledge. Curse of knowledge means you think you got this world, this life, this business and everything figured out and you're done growing. So be very careful with that, especially that's a culture killer. Next, one of the most important things I talked about, that buoyancy plan, things to start, stop, and continue doing. So it's modeling your own behavior when you're in that basically what I call that zone, when basically you're in fuego. You need to have somebody that you know that you trust that's going to give it to you straight. And if you don't have somebody in your life you call a buoyancy partner, somebody keep you buoyant, because let's face it, we're going to see a rejection, right? I'm sure basically you guys have taken a project all the way to the end and then something fell out, whether it's finances, something of that nature, and your head got sideways. Took you sideways for, could have been a couple of days, a week, a month, sometimes a year, right? If it's a big enough deal. So again, who do you have in your life? Who do you have that's in your strength that's going to challenge you and remind you of what the end goal in mind is, right? If there becomes too much cloud, too much anxiety, too much fear, then again, what happens is we start running towards the fear because that's how we're wired, not towards, again, you need somebody that's reminding you and holding you accountable to your goals that are helping you get better. So remember, always having a buoyancy partner, especially when it's free. If you grab other agents and you look up to that agent, or you guys look up to each other in different segments, that could be your buoyancy partner. Heck, you can change your buoyancy partner every month, every quarter, every 6 months, and make sure, again, you're continuing to get better. It's the best, fastest, cheapest way to get basically to have your own coach without having to pay for a coach. Think about that. Culture is attitude, 100%. The way I look at going into my business, the way I look into going to a meeting, the way I look into going to a conversation is 100% attitude. Let's just test it real quick, right? And ending here, I know I'm out of time. So homework, right? Take that list of items and basically write all that apply, right? So take that list of items you have, and I want you to write all that apply. What we're going to write next to that list of items that we did, because remember, we said or if you would build your ideal environment for success in the workplace, what would that look like, right? Write it down. Again, define the list of what the perfect realtor's qualities in the business, and then what does it look like, and write those down, right? So what I did is I created my own little list here on the right for you, because really there's 3 different segments of being successful in business. It's knowledge, it's skill, and it's attitude, right? So I grabbed a list from this. Is a Freedom Trail realty company. Again, I'm not from your industry, so you might laugh at the information I gave. Just keep no mind here. But again, remember, if I build that perfect realtor, let's talk about that one, right? And I'm going to build that and I put all the attributes into it. What I did is I found this thing online, and it talked about the top 12 qualities you need to be a successful real estate agent. Now, I'm sure everyone on this call is probably doing everything on this list. So I'm going to basically just walk through it, right? So again, knowledge, skill, or attitude, right? Steely determined, right? Attitude, skill, or knowledge, skill, or attitude. Okay. In quick summary, because I'm over time, what I did is I took each one of these, right? Determination, ability to negotiate, basically tech savvy, winning personality, right? Integrity, ability to network, attention to detail, basically the ability to solve problems, self-motivated or self-motivation, basically strong communication skills, and then boundless enthusiasm. It's a pretty good list. I think that's a good list for any industry. But when you look at that, the knowledge, the skill, the attitude, every single one of those 12, when you go down the list, has to do with attitude. You can't achieve one of those single things on the list without having the right attitude and mindset. So in closing, what you got to ask yourself, am I doing it? Do I have the right attitude? Am I part of the culture? Am I helping build the culture? Am I breaking it, right? Have I mastered it? Means, do I know what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis? Do I have my buoyancy partner? Have I written out basically my buoyancy plan? And then do my results prove that I mastered it? Remember, with February 14th coming up, 92% of us have already forgotten why we started. We forgot the goal in mind at all because other things have come into our life to cloud the judgment. So again, hopefully you guys have enjoyed or took something from today's meeting. And thanks for having me again. My favorite saying, which is my YouTube channel, elephants don't bite, mosquitoes do, is develop that for my sales team to make sure, again, that around the country I have other people in Philadelphia and Missouri and basically Texas and all through California, Arizona, that I let tune into this to basically get filled up, right? You guys are invited to it if you want to come into it. It's not really developed for, I'm not trying to get basically YouTube famous. It's just something we do for motivation that helps with specific sales techniques that allow us to be successful. All right. Any questions or anything for me while I'm ending here? Thank you so much for having me, Esau. I appreciate it. Hopefully you guys took something from that.
I think that was great material, Dustin, especially at the very end, all the 12 qualities that you listed. I took a picture of that. That's awesome.
Yeah, very
Thank
cool.
you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys, man. This is a favor from my boy Esau through here. I thank you guys. Hopefully you guys are knocking out 2022 is hopefully a great year for you guys. And I appreciate you letting me take some of your time on today's meeting. Congratulations on your guys' success. And I think you're right on the foreclosure. I don't think there's anything to worry about it. I think, like we talked about before, it's an attitude and help that build your culture. All right.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you coming on board and sharing your valuable time with us today. A couple of the things that I got out of this, what's really important is basically in many ways, this is what you said, having a mastermind group, right? Getting the closest, the 5 people that are closest to you. And I just want to give a special shout out to the people that I've come really close to. And by all means, I'm going to mention some realtor names. And this is not that I'm showing any type of favoritism or anything. I just led into and really got it to really know our mentors, because it's what's important to me is who's leading our team, right? And I think the mentors are huge and as far as our culture and what they do to the office and stuff like that. And I would say they're the unsung heroes, right? They're there. They get acknowledged, but at the end of the day, they still have their own businesses to run. So with that said, I really want to give a shout out to Lee. First of all, thank you so much for welcoming to the team. What you do for our office is amazing, and you do it with a full heart, with really no expectations of getting anything in return. But with that said, you get such things in abundance come to you because that's what you're attracting. So Lee, thank you so much. Josie, another one, very thoughtful of others. She really is doing a deep dive in the Charitable Foundation, and she's stepping into the role as a mentor. Brian Erstad, thank you so much as well. He's starting his new team, and we're so excited for what he has for you guys and for his business. Janice Danielson, thank you so much. Not only are you our TC, but you're also a mentor to some of the agents in the office, and you're getting them skillfully trained on the document. So that's that's a big plus. Eddie Patel, what can I say about you? You're just a workhorse. It's always great to be around you. You have a huge smile, you have great presence, and you definitely help the team in our office. Special shout out to Melissa, who is my unofficial therapist, keeps me in line with and on track with what I need to do in order to help you guys become better salespeople. Vanessa, thank you so much. You guys, you are very special to me. You always make me laugh. We have some great times in the office, but when it comes to work, you get it done. And without you, we wouldn't be having the great traction that we have on social media without you. Tammy, thank you so much as well. You're dedicated to what you do, and you're just amazing. And it's for someone who has been in the company for such a long time. I still don't think I've met anyone in the company that wants to continue to learn and grow in their business more than you have. So I'm very proud of the work that you've been doing. You have a lot of progress on your work, and it shows. And people are reposting some of the things that you're doing online, and that brings a smile to me each and every day. And last but not least, Kathy, gosh, what can I say? I mean, I guess I'm speechless when it comes to that. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart because you're my confidant, my assistant manager here in the office. But really, I think you're the one that leads more than most, more than me, that's for sure. And we wouldn't have the growth that we've had in the past 6 months without you. I can lean on you in certain things, and in my absence in the office, you've been able to do a lot. In fact, we've had the most growth here in the past 6 months than we had in the prior 24 months. And that's just the beginning. And I'm really proud and honored to be part of your group. And you guys are amazing.